This video shows and details graphic content. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, and thank you all for tuning in. We're going to be talking about a series of incidents shown here today, all taking place at random times and places. The first incident took place in Chicago on June 18th around 11 p.m. at a West Pullman restaurant. A woman and her son were both charged with first-degree murder stemming from a fatal altercation. The son's name is unknown as he is a juvenile and was charged accordingly. The incident started when Carlisha Hood and her 14-year-old son drove to a local restaurant, Maxwell Street Express, to pick up food. They pulled in and Miss Hood got out of her car to go inside while her son waited in the car. While waiting in line, Miss Hood got into an argument with 32-year-old Jeremy Brown. Miss Hood texted her son and was pointing to him while outside, so her son entered Maxwell's and stood inside the doorway. At this point in the altercation, Jeremy Brown began striking Miss Hood in the head for a total of 3 times. But after the first time, Miss Hood's 14-year-old son pulled out a handgun and fired a shot at Mr. Brown, striking him in the back. Mr. Brown ran out of the restaurant, with the boy following him firing additional shots, with Miss Hood telling her son to keep shooting at Mr. Brown until he killed him.
Who? Get in the car? Who? Nay. Get your food. Get your food. If you say one more thing, I'm going to knock you out. Oh, my grandma, say one more thing, I'm going to knock you out. Say one more thing, I'm going to knock you out.
Jeremy Brown suffered 2 gunshots wounds to the back and was pronounced dead at the scene. Once Miss Hood's son had stopped firing at Brown, his mother instructed him to shoot a witness who was egging on the argument that started the fight. She even tried to take the gun away from her son, but her son shoved her away, and they both drove off, leaving together. The following Thursday, Miss Hood turned herself into police with the firearm that was used in the shooting, as well as her concealed carry license. Both Miss Hood and her son were then charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and held at Cook County Jail on a $3 million bail. However, the following Monday, all charges were dropped, as the prosecution was not able to meet the burden of proof in the prosecution. The state attorney legal analysis said, "You have the right to use deadly force to stop that force against another person, and that's exactly what happened in this case." Miss Hood then sued the city for $50,000 in damages for being falsely arrested and for emotional distress. That conclusion was the main reason why I wanted to include this incident in the video. I remember the initial clip surfaced on the internet, and it was being debated whether or not the use of deadly force was justified or not, as many said it was, and many said it was not. The second incident we're going to be talking about today comes from 2015 from Manita, Virginia, and details 2 news members who were both murdered on air during a morning interview being broadcasted in real time. Although I'm assuming most of you have seen the footage, especially if you are coming from the Telegram, I cannot share any of it here, as there have been FTC complaints about the video being on YouTube and Facebook. On August 26, 2015, news reporter Allison Parker and her cameraman Adam Ward, who worked for WDBJ7 News, arrived at work ready to go on air for an interview with the director of the local Chamber of Commerce, Vicki Gardner. In the middle of the interview, at 6:45 a.m., Vester Lee Flanagan, who had once worked for WDBJ7 News until the station had fired him, approached the crew conducting the interview and fired at Allison Parker. He then turned the weapon on Adam Ward and Vicki Gardner, who was shot in the back of the head after attempting to play dead. Flanagan let off 15 shots total and then left the scene, with the camera cutting back to the studio where journalists had tried to process what they just witnessed, some recognizing the suspect they saw on camera as their once co-worker. Police arrived at the scene to find Parker and Ward DOA and were able to save Gardner after an emergency surgery. Supposedly, Flanagan had a track record for odd work activity, as that was the second time being fired and displaying bizarre behavior. When he was fired from WDBJ7, police had to escort him from the building. Flanagan had planned the shooting and rented a car to flee the scene, but hours later, while still being hunted by the police, he tweeted his confession with the video saying he had targeted those 2 individuals for not wanting to work with him in the past. With police closing in, Flanagan crashed his car and shot himself and died. If you want to see more footage from the incidents we talked about today, I recommend clicking the link in the comments below. As always, thank you for watching, stay safe, and stay dangerous.